All right, so let's take a look at using JPA from our development environment, which is we're using Eclipse. Certainly, any other IDE would work as well. Um, so, um, so Apache is not actually necessary, but I'm sure you've already installed it. And you would also need the Eclipse version that supports Java EE. Although this is an older version, it's still relevant. And we would also need the MySQL connector, right, which I believe we've installed earlier, so you should already have that. Or you can have the Windows or the Mac version. And you would need to, if you're going to use this from a server, you'll need to create a server instance, which you might have already done that. If not, this walks you through. Although this Tomcat 7, I think we have what we're using lately is a Tomcat 9, but same instructions. So anyway, this walks you through creating that. Creating a web project. We've created a couple of these. We'll create another one today, and associate it to a runtime. And finally, make sure that you have XML, the web.xml created as well. Anyway, here's where we really want to continue. We're going to add JPA support to our project, and this is going to create quite a bit of magic that add quite a few other libraries that go along with this. And it will download them and install them on your IDE. So let's do that part first. Let me close this. Oh, that's WebStorm, different class. So let me close all these. And so let's create in JPA lectures, which we've been working the last couple of weeks. I don't believe we added JPA support to 5200 lectures. And so this one was already a web application. Right, although let's create a new one. So let's say we new other web. Let's see. And dynamic web project will go next. And we'll call it JPA web. And I already have a server instantiated for this, and we'll go with that one. I'll say yes, next, and select web.xml. So to that project, we can add JPA support if we open up the properties. And we go to facets. Where are they? Project facets. You can add quite a few other things in there. JAX-B, JAX-RS, REST Web Services. In this particular case, we can add JPA. If you select that, it's going to ask you that you should configure a couple other things. Right? One of the things that it's going to ask you is what JPA library do you want to use? Right? There's quite a few. Hibernate has one. Spring MVC has another one. Eclipse Link is actually the reference implementation. So all those folks have to support at least what Eclipse Link supports. So Eclipse Link is meant for testing, making sure that all the features are there. It wasn't there originally. To download it and install it, you click here. If you click there, it'll download the libraries and install it for your IDE. I've already done that, so I'm not going to do it again. You can also then add a connection, which I've done that already, but we can create a brand new one. We can say add connection. So MySQL in this case. And we'll call this CS5200 lecture. And say next, and then here you can configure what database you want to connect to. I believe I already had a connection for this class. Yeah, I have 5200, so we'll connect to this one, 5200 over here. So we can say the name of the database here, CS5200, Won't put it out here, the URL. And then the username, I think we had created a username for this. Users. Okay, we had a 5200 user. I think the password is also 5200, CS5200. So we'll create that CS5200 and CS5200. CS5200. Save the password. And here you can test the connection to see if indeed it is actually connecting. So say yes, we are connecting. We'll say yes, okay. We'll say finish. And that's the connection that it's using. We'll say okay. And apply and close. So now our project has JPA support, and we can start creating things here. Let's see. Perhaps one of the things that we'll see here that is different from other projects is that it added a new element here called JPA content, and notice that it has a default persistence.xml file. Which we can look at the source, and right now that's all that's all there is, right? It doesn't have much in there. The only thing that it has is that it's declared the JPA unit at the same name as the project name. Okay? But you can certainly change it to whatever you want, as long as you know what the name you gave it from the source code. This is the only thing you really need from the source code, right? Just to refer to this persistence unit. And here's where we're going to put any classes that we want to persist in the database. This is where we would put it. Here's where we would configure it. We also need to configure the fact that we are connected to MySQL, we're using Eclipse link, that we're using username and password, what's the name of the database, and things like that would also be configured here as well. Okay. So let's go on. So we did JPA, we configured it, we set Eclipse link, we downloaded it, and selected the latest version for your particular IDE. It'll download Eclipse link, install it locally. You add a connection, which we did. Did that. We might need the MySQL connector jar file here as well. We'll load that. What else do we need? So inside of the properties, we can load the libraries right here. And in our case, it would be MySQL library, so we can add that as well. Let's do that. Let's see. We can go to JPA Web, and we can open up the build path, and we can add here in the libraries. We can add MySQL connector, and I believe I have it somewhere here. There it is. I'll add that. All set. So we did that. Let's continue. Once we have that, we can start. You can do that, or even drag it in to the webinf lib. Either one will work. So here's an example of what the persistence XML might look like. The only difference here that I have is the name JPA1 in the example. I have JPA Web. We need to configure who's handling what vendor of JPA we're using, whether we're using Hibernate or Spring, or in this case we're using Eclipse. There's quite a few other vendors, minor vendors, but the Eclipse implementation is the reference implementation, right? They're the ones who manage the specification. So we'll add that to our persistence XML. So we'll add that. We also can configure some properties and configure what the name of the database that we're connecting, username and password, things like that. So I'll just copy that and put it here in the properties. So let's see. Password, I believe it's CS5200. The username is CS5200. The driver, we're using the MySQL driver that we just added as a jar file. The connection strength is this is connecting to CS5200. Here I have commented out the one of the properties is that to drop and create tables, meaning that every time I make any changes, right, and I redeploy, it would kill my databases, right? Drop them, right? And recreate my entire all my schema again, right? And in development, it's fine as you're developing and whatnot. But once you're done, right, and you just want to test and perhaps even go to QA or production, you don't want to drop this, right? If you've made an effort to populate these databases, or perhaps part of your build process is that it populates your database with some start content. But I'm gonna uncomment it, since I do want to, in development, I do want to drop the tables and recreate them, since we're going to be modifying the schemas quite a bit. And as it's interacting with the database, I wanted to spew some log, right, telling me what it's doing, right? That I'm dropping these tables, I'm creating these tables, I'm inserting. I wanted to log all the communication that it does with the database, right? So we can take a look at the SQL that it's generating, right? It's always a good idea to just keep an eye on the SQL. It might not be exactly what we want it to be, right? So if we see some weird behavior, it's always a good idea. Why is it doing that, right? So it's always a good idea to see what is the actual SQL that it's using to talk to a database, right? And we'll spew it here in the log. All right, so we have our persistence XML. We can start actually creating some entity classes. To create an entity class is pretty simple. We can just go and say new. Let's see, what entity class are we going to create here? Movies. Okay, so let's create a movie entity class. So here at the project, you can say new entity. Do I have entity? I don't have entity. So I can say file new. I do?
It's JPA.
New. Oh, there it is. JPA entity. Thank you. So here we can give it the, if we're putting it in a package, so we'll say maybe edu.neu .cs5200, maybe ORM. That's a topic. And in particular, we're looking at JPA. And the class, we'll call it movie. And next, we can add some of the fields in here. So perhaps we can, notice that it's using the default name, right? So it'll use the same name of the class. We'll use it as the same name of the table. Or you can override that and say, no, I want you to use movie table or something. I don't know, whatever. What we're going to use is the default name for the table. And we can add fields here. Let's create an integer for the ID. And we'll say that is the primary key. We'll select that as the primary key. And then we'll add maybe the title of the movie as a string. The title. And let's keep it simple, just these two for now. Right? And we'll say finish. So it creates a table, and already with some annotations, with the default constructor and the setters and getters, right? And other than the annotations entity and ID, right? This is just a plain old Java object, right? There's nothing special about this class, and you should treat it as such, right? That's the whole point, right? That you should be able to write your application with all the great power of object-oriented technology, right? And you could create also base classes, derived classes, and whatnot, inheritance, and all that jazz, right? It's the only other thing is that this is you need to implement serializable. This only tells the it doesn't really do anything. It's just a tag, knowing that you are guaranteeing that all the fields in that class can be written, right, and can be serialized to a file system, right? That you're not using any fields here that are any types that are not serializable, like if you're opening a file system, right, or you're opening up a network connection, right? All those objects are not serializable. There's no way to write into a file system and then recreate them at a later time. Right? Any connections to a database or any of those will all be transient instances, right? So you're guaranteeing that you don't have any of those special instances in this class, and we don't, and that's fine. Okay. So So notice that by having created it, it has automatically declared it in our persistence.xml, right? We could have done this manually. There's no reason we could have done this. We didn't need to do this using the wizard, right? We could have done this manually. It's also complaining that I see the class, but I don't see a table that maps this. Right? We actually went out to the database and saw, is there an actual table that maps to this class? And it didn't find one, right? And indeed, if we go back to the database, indeed the tables, we don't have anything there. We don't have any tables, right? So the tables are empty there. Okay. So anyway, we could generate the tables by using another wizard. We can right click on the project, and notice that because we added the JPA support, we get another we get a new option here. And one of the things that we could generate tables from entities. So go look at all the persistence, any class that is declared in the persistence.xml, and use the default names and the default fields and whatnot, and generate a class that would map to this, right? So if we select that, it says, well, do you want me to do it now and generate it, or would you prefer a SQL script that you can maybe copy and paste on SQL, right? And we say yes, you just generate it, and it says, are you sure? Because I'm going to blow. If you have a table and you have data in there, I'm going to blow it away, right? I'm going to drop it, and so that's fine. Do that, so notice that it's going and it went out to and generated the SQL that went along with it, right? And logged into the database with username CS5200. It tried to drop the table. It dropped the table, and then it did it several times. And then it generated a create statement. There it is. So create movie ID, integer null, title varchar, primary key ID. Okay. And if we okay, I think it failed trying to drop it because there was no table movie, so it failed trying to drop it. If we go back and we refresh, we have tables. Okay, it has movie table right there, right? And we can look at the actual columns, the ID, and the title, right? Using the default names that we gave it on that other side, right? Okay. Right. One other thing that we would like to be perhaps be able to add this is configure. Actually, let's look at the create statement that it used, right? We can movie. We can say send to SQL editor the create statement. So this is the actual create statement that it used, right? Primary key, whatnot, right? Notice that the problem with this is that we would be responsible, right, for generating those IDs. Ideally, we would like to configure it so that we won't have to create the IDs. We don't have to insert those IDs. So we can add additional annotations to this to simplify our life, right? So one of the things that we can configure here is that we want this to be a generated value. We can say generated. I don't remember what the name was. Oh, there it is. Generated value, right? And it says, okay, I want you to generate it. And there's you can provide a string to generate it, or you can give it a strategy. And there are several strategies that you can choose from depending on the vendor, right? Depending on the vendor. Auto says, I'm leaving it up to JPA to choose. So JPA, you choose the strategy, right? Or I can choose several ones. So if I'm using Oracle, for instance, I would use a sequence, right, where there would be a separate table, right, with all the IDs that I can grab from, right, all these unique identifiers, values that I can grab from. Or if I know that the underlying infrastructure supports auto increment and such as identity and SQL Server, or auto increment in MySQL, right? I could choose identity. That's a strategy, right? If I do that and then I regenerate the table, I can regenerate the table. I'll say yes, and I'll tell it not to bother me again with the same message. I'll say yes, go ahead. It'll go on and recreate the tables. But this time, notice that the create statement, right, has integer auto increment, right? And if we grab this again, we can look at the create statement now has the auto increment added there. Okay, right. All right. So now that we have that, we can start to interact with the database. Perhaps create a couple of these. Right. So let's do that. Let's create a DAO, right, that would allow us to interact with this. And let's see, we have somewhere here, there it is, here's our movie. And we can create a class that would allow us to perhaps insert one of these movies. So we'll create here the movie DAO, the main. Right. So the DAO is remember it's our single place, right? Our singleton that's going to allow us to interact with the data without it'll give us a nice high level API, right? So that we don't have to know about any of the idiosyncrasies of the underlying layer, right? It could be just plain old SQL. We could be using bare bones JDBC, right? Or we could use this higher level JPA, right? It's our choice. The movie, the DAO just hides it, right? The actual implementation is hidden from us. Or we could be using XML to store all this data for as far as we know. We don't know. Okay, that's the whole point of the DAO, right? That to hide all those details from us. So all right, so this is just working through that ID and constructors and whatnot. We drops the tables. Here's it, create statements. And I think I chose another strategy and instead added the sequence. Right? I had forgotten to choose the auto increment, and it chose to create a sequence table. Instead, I added a generated value, right, so that it would add the auto increment there. Okay. All right, so let's create the DAO. And in this first one, we'll create a movie, right? So it'll allow us to create a movie. First, we'll declare the unit. And I think it's called JPA Web, right? And then we'll instantiate a factory that will allow us to create instances of the entity manager. And we'll need to import these, persistence, and also persistence here. Java X persistence. There we go. All right, so we have those two, and then we can implement the create movie. So let's implement create movie. So this is public void create movie, and the most interesting thing here is that again it keeps it at a high level, at the object-oriented level, right? This just takes a movie instance. What happens between these two curly brackets, right, is the business of the DAO, right? That's the beauty, right? Internally, we can implement anything we want, right? Right, and that's what the DAO does. It hides all the implementation. In this case, we're going to grab a hold of the entity manager from the factory. Create entity manager. And the two things that we need to remember is to start a transaction and then commit the transaction, right? Import the entity manager and em.begin. Get transaction, begin. And then get transaction, commit. And then we close it. All right. So any operation that we're going to do, right, of reading, writing, updating, deleting, are always going to have these 4 lines of code. Right? They're always going to be there. Right? And in here is where the actual actions happen. Right? In this particular case, we want to write the movie to the database, right? So it's basically em.persist, right? So those are the 4 CRUD operations, right? We have merge, We have delete, we have find, we have persist, right? And those allow you to implement the basic CRUD operations. If you have something a little more ambitious, then you would need to create a particular query, right? That does the actual insert, does the actual update, does the actual select, does the actual delete. But if you're just using some of the more common ones, it's just these 4 operations. So we say persist movie, right? And that should insert the movie in there. So let's grab an instance of this. Let's grab an instance of this DAO. So it's movie DAO. So mDAO, new movie DAO. And let's create a movie. And there's a movie Titanic. New Titanic. New movie. No. No new Titanic. Oh, I don't have that constructor. Okay, so let's create that constructor. Create constructor. All right, and in here we're just going to say this title equal title. Ugh. Okay, go back. Wait, what are you complaining about? Oh, entity. I don't know why. I need to like kill Eclipse and come back, and so that it like reparses the thing, and then it knows that the table's there. That's lame. Anyway, so let's try this. If we run this, that's just as a plain Java application. Let's try that. Yes, no. Did it work? Let's see, movie, let's select. No, that didn't work. What happened here? Updates available. Let me try it again. Run. mDAO. Oh, obviously, we didn't actually use it. I hate computers. They always do exactly what they're told. Nothing more. Okay, there it is. So we're going to use the DAO to actually create the movie. So let's run it. All right, so it's established a communication, and it says that it was successful. Let's see. Did it actually work? Let's run this again. All right, there it is. So we have Titanic that was added to the database. So let's do just a couple more. I'll just call this movie, and I'll call this movie here. So it's aliens, and let's create just aliens here, and we'll create here avatar. So if we select again, we have 3. Notice that it dropped my database, right, and just recreated it. Maybe I didn't want to do that. Anyway, so we have created 2. How about retrieving them? Let's retrieve them. So let's do let's retrieve just one of them. We can say public. Can't type today. Public movie. And find movie by ID, and we can pass in the ID. And again, we always have those 4 lines of code are always they're always there. So to retrieve a movie, we're going to use the em.find. So find takes 2 arguments. The first argument is the class that you want to retrieve, right? The data type that you want to retrieve. In this particular case, is the movie class, and the second argument is the value that you want to use as a primary key value that you want to. In this particular case, I think we have 1 and 2. So if we have 2, presumably we would return avatar. Right? So let's do that. Let's retrieve that, and that's going to give us movie. and we're going to return that down here. So it's going to return movie. Okay. So let's comment this out. And instead, let's retrieve movie, retrieve it from the DAO. So mDAO.find, right, with ID. Oh, I'm sorry, ID is ID. That'll be a parameter, right? And we're going to pass in 2. And we'll display system.out.println movie.getTitle. So let's try. I'm sorry?
When you run again, it will delete all the records.
Well, that's why I comment this out. Oop. There we go. Let's run it again. Okay, we got avatar. All right. So let's implement a couple more. Let's delete. So public void delete movie, and we provide the ID of the movie that we want to remove. Again, the same couple of lines of code are always there. And the way it works is that we're going to first fetch the movie right from the database, and once we have it, we're going to remove it. We're going to delete it. Right? So we can fetch the movie just like we did for find movie by ID, and once we have it, we can just say em.remove movie, and this will remove it from the database. Why do I have this twice? Oh, did I do it wrong? I didn't commit. I copied the wrong 2 lines. Sorry. Put that back. Okay, there we go. Okay, let's try it again. So we'll remove it, and then we'll check to see if in the database it's gone, right? So let's first check to see that they're both there. Both are there, and we'll remove avatar. And so let's see. Let's say mDAO dot delete movie, and we'll give it ID number 2. That will remove avatar. So if we run it, it displays avatar first, and then presumably it removed it, and we can see that avatar is no longer there. Okay. All right, let's see what else. Create movie. All right, so let's insert a couple, and let's try to retrieve all the movies that are in there. So let's insert a couple like Terminator and Titanic. Let's insert. And so in here. Oh no, that didn't work. Copy. And let's insert these 2 movies. And let's select all of them. Okay, we have Aliens, Terminator, and Titanic are in there. Let's retrieve them all. So this would be find all movies. So this would be public a list of movies. And this returns, let's see, this would be find all movies. And again, we need entity manager and the transaction. Okay. So what we're going to do here is that there's no default finder that retrieves all of them, right? So we need to create a query to be able to retrieve it using a SQL-like query. And so first we need to instantiate the query from the entity manager. Okay, so let's do that. Do a query entity manager create query, and the string here looks like SQL, but it's not SQL. So we're going to say select m movie from movie m, and that's it. There's no special where clauses or anything. I just want all of them. Right? And query, we need to import it. Now you have to be careful when you import query because there's several queries right? So it's not the management one, it's not the Eclipse one, it's this one, JavaX persistence query, okay? Once we have the query, we can actually query. We can say query dot. Now query has several functions here that you can access, right? There's one where you can retrieve just the first result. There's you can check to see how many match. Meaning I don't want to retrieve all of them. Just tell me how many records matched, right? This is great for pagination, for instance, right? So that you can say, well, there's 1,000 records, okay, and you can ask, well, I want the first 10, right? You can also, if you have parameters in here, right? The movie whose name is, whose title is, whatever, you can set the parameters as well, or you can get the entire result list. Right? Result list just returns a list, right? And in this case, it's going to be a list of movies. So this would be movies. And so this returns a list of objects that needs to be casted. You cast it to the actual type that you want it, right? List, we need to import that. That's in Java util. And finally, we can return the list of movies. Okay. All right. Movies. So this should be movies. So in this case, we're not going to delete anything. So instead, we're going to just return the list of movies here. So list of movie. From the DAO, mDAO dot find all movies. And we're just going to iterate over all of them, right? So for movie m in movies. So just display system.out.println m.get title. So let's run that. And we have all three: Aliens, Terminator, and Titanic. All right. All right. Awesome. Let's see what else. Again, it's very object oriented. You barely know that there's a relational database underneath, right? Only this kind of gives it away. But nevertheless, you can encapsulate it around in a very object-oriented kind of API. All right, we did find movie by ID. How about by title? So by title will be a little bit different. So it'll be somewhat like this: find all by all movies. So let's copy that. It's going to look very similar to this. And we'll change this: find movie by title. And presumably there's only one movie with that title. We're going to assume there's a unique, titles are unique. Here we're going to return the movie, one movie. So it's not going to be a list. Instead, we're going to return a movie where m.title is equal to some parameter title, right? That we're going to pass as an argument here, string title, right? Since we have a parameter, we need to parameterize it. We use a query.set set parameter, and we can either do it by number, right, by index, or by name. So the name is title, and the value is title. Wait, what? Title. And we know there's only one, so we don't want to retrieve a list. So we can always get the first result. Right? Even if there's more that the query returns, we're only going to ever return just one. Get first result. Can I cast int? Oh, I'm sorry. No, this is get what? Let's see. Get. Maybe it's not first result then. Wait. Is there single? There we go. Thank you. And that returns just the movie, and we are going to retrieve it there, and we're going to return it right there. Awesome. So that's all of them, and we can retrieve the movie Let's just copy this. And return the movie Titanic. I will say mdow dot find movie by title, and we can pass in Titanic, and then just print it. Movie title. Try it again. NAD Titanic displays twice. Everybody good? All right, let's see. Delete movie. We did delete movie. Rename movie. Let's just copy this one. Rename movie. Notice that the only thing you need to do, right, is find the movie. Once you have the movie as an object, any modifications you make to any of the properties, when you commit, right, the changes are made permanent. Okay? So this is not a dumb object, right? This is an object that keeps track of the state. So any changes to the state. So even though we think we're getting an instance of the movie object, we actually are getting a wrapper object, right? An object that has the same data type, right? But it has the same data type and it has the same functions. So it looks exactly like ours, okay? But it actually it's a wrapper, meaning it intercepts all our calls, our method calls, right? So that when we call set title, that we think we're calling it on our movie, we're actually calling the set title on their movie, on the class that is dynamically generated by JPA, right? It keeps track of internally that now the title is dirty, or the property is dirty, right? And that it's no longer in sync with the database, right? So that at the next available opportunity, right? For instance, in the next commit, right, it will know that it needs to synchronize with the database. Right? So it's a pretty powerful mechanism, right? That generates all these kind of like phantom classes for us, right? That wrap around our objects, so we don't have to. Right? Let's rename Terminator to Terminator 2. Let's do that. Let's do mdow. Let's mdow. We'll say rename movie, and Terminator is what ID? Terminator is 3, so ID 3, and the new title is Terminator 2. And that before we get all the, there we go, Terminator 2. And just to make sure, let's run it here. And indeed it has changed. Okay? All right, let's keep going. So what about relationships, right? Where you have foreign keys, primary keys, right? Referencing different tables. We have to be able to also represent them in objects, right? Now, here we're going to create a movie library that's going to keep track of a list of movies. So I have a movie libraries of all my sci-fi, all my horror movies, right? Comedy, right? I want to just keep them organized in them. And so one way to implement it is that the library has an array or a list or an array list of a collection of movies. And whereas the other side, right, the actual movies are going to have a reference perhaps back to the library that they belong to, right? And in a database, this could be represented as a foreign key primary key, right, where the movies have a foreign key referencing back to the library that they belong, right? Although there's a flaw in that implementation in that a movie might be part of several libraries, right? It could be in several categories. Let's keep it simple. Let's just have one movie can go in just one library, okay? So let's enhance our movie implementation to have this brand new library. Well, actually, let's first implement the movie library first, since it has a reference to a class that already exists, right? So let's do that. Let's implement a brand new entity. So we can say file new and other. We can go to JPA and JPA entity here. And we're going to call it movie library. What do we have here? We just have the ID and the name of the library. Okay, so let's create next here, and we'll create an integer ID, and that's going to be our primary key. And let's also add the name of the library. And we're going to just finish for now. It gets created, and plus we're going to add a couple other things here. We're going to say that this is generated value using a strategy of identity, and we're going to add the fact that this is has a relationship with movies. So this will be another private here. It says that this is we're going to have a list of movies. These are the movies in the library. And also let's import the list. Yes, I know it's not there. What is it? Import Java util list. Okay. There it is, right? So this list, right, is on the so one movie library has many movies, right? So this is on the strong side, right, of a one-to-many relationship, right? So it's on the one side. It's on the one side, and so we're gonna annotate it as a one-to-many. But before we do that, let's go back to the movie class and create the relationship, right? We're going to say that this has now a private movie library, so it belongs to a library. So they're both referencing each other, okay? Plus, we need the setters and getters for each one of these. So let's generate the setters and getters for the library, and we're going to add it at the end, at the bottom. Oh, there they are, right? And plus, we're going to do the same thing for the movie library. We're going to add the setter and getter for that. Setter and getter for our new movie. Setter and getter for movies. We're going to add them at the bottom. There they are, the setters and getters for getting and adding the movies. Everybody good? All right. All right. So we're done there. So now we're gonna start, telling JPA how do we want to implement this relationship, because with one way to implement this, right? And that's where the impedance comes in, right? Because there's several ways of implementing this in a relational database, right? We could have a class movies, right? A class movie library, and in between we can have a mapping table, right? That's a perfectly legitimate way of implementing this, right? That the mapping table just has references to say that movie belongs to that library. Actually, that would be a better implementation, right? But the other implementation just says that, well, no, the children are just going to have foreign references back to their parents, right? So let's go with that one first. Let's do that one first. So we'll go with saying that on the libraries, on the movie library, on the movie side, right? On the movie side, we're going to say that this movie library, I am just in the many-to-one. I am on the many side of a one-to-many relationship. Okay, I'm on the many side, right? And basically, this is telling you is that I want to implement this library as a foreign key. This library is just going to be a foreign key. And it'll use the name of the field as a basis for the name of the foreign key. Right? It'll call it as library _ID or something. Right? We can override that and say, no, I want the field to be called this. Right? But it could. We'll leave the default naming convention. Right? On the other side of the movie library, we need to tell it that we are on the strong side of a one-to-many relationship. Okay? And the way we do that is by using the one-to-many annotation. So we are on the strong side, and we're on the one side of a one-to-many relationship. Okay, there's only one library for many movies. Okay, and here we can configure a couple other things. we can say that, hey, on the other side, on the many side, they are referring back to me, right, using a particular field, right? In this case, is the library field. The library field on the other side, right, which is a foreign key, right, is referring to me. Right, so let's and also we can configure what do we want to happen with the life cycle of the parent. If the parent gets removed, perhaps I would want also the children to be removed, right? So that any delete operation on the parent get cascaded down to the children, right? So you can configure that by providing the cascade strategy using a cascade type. And here I've chosen all, right? Meaning that updates. If the parent gets updated, I want the children to be updated. If the parent gets deleted, I want the children to be deleted. But also if it gets saved. If the parent gets saved, I also want the children to get saved. Right? And we'll see how that is relevant in a minute. So let's grab that and let's use that as our annotation. All right, so we're ready. So let's start playing around with this and create a DAO, right? A DAO specifically for the movie library, right? Okay, so let's do that next. Well, let's first generate all the tables. Let's generate them. In this case, I'm going to put back my persistence. Let's remove this. And let's generate all the tables. Where are you? JPA tools and generate tables. And it's going to blow away all my movies. All right, so if we go back and we refresh the tables. All right, we get the movie library, right? And if we look at the implementation here, we can look at the send to SQL, the create statement. We'll notice that has changed a little bit, right? Notice that now we have a new field, library ID, right? It's based off of the name of the field, and then it declared it as a primary key. I'm sorry, as a foreign key that is referencing the movie library ID. See that? And on the movie library, we can take a look at the creation on that side. So, which this one's it's fairly simple, right? It just has ID, which is a primary key, and just the name. That's it. Okay, which is somewhat what we were expecting. But a completely legitimate other way of implementing would have been to have a mapping table, right? And we'll do that a little later. All right, so we have that. We can reinsert some of the movies. Let's insert a couple more. So Avatar, and Alien. I have a thing for James Cameron. Let's insert these. And let's make sure that we have, okay, we have those four movies in there. But notice that the library ID is null. We could have added other constraints such as you cannot be null, right? You have to be in a library, but I don't think that was necessary. All right, so let's create a DAO, right, that will allow me to manipulate the movie library. So let's create movie library DAO in here. Where are you? New class, movie library DAO with a main. And the unit, let's copy that. In this case is JPA web. And we'll have to import these guys. And then let's create a library, some of the CRUD operations. So let's just copy that. So this will allow me to create a. Why is it not copying? create the library. Let's grab the entity manager. So it's just more or less more of the same, right? Just creating the library, passed in. So let's create a sci-fi library. There we go. Let's run this. Errors exist. What? Movie library. Did I not oh, the constructor's not there? Create constructor. And so this dot name equal name. Okay, let's try it again. If we go back and take a look at movie library and copy the select all. Why not just star? Okay, so we created sci-fi. Did we blow away our movies? Ah. Wait, what? It didn't insert it? Okay. All right. Now that we have the movies, and let me remember to comment this out. Now that we have the library, we can now create perhaps relationship between these two, right? Like for instance, add movies to library. Okay. So let's copy that. Now for this to work, copy. Now for this to work, let's see. Let's go over this for a second. So first what's going to happen is that to add a movie to a library, notice what I'm going to pass is the movie ID and the library ID. Makes sense, right? Because we need the movie library ID foreign key, right, to refer to the library primary key, right? So we need those two. So first going to fetch the movie, makes sense. And then I'm going to fetch the library. Now I have them both as objects in memory, right, in RAM. Right, the database nothing. It doesn't know anything about any relationship about the movies and the library, right? And so the way to create the relationship is to have the library get a hold of all its movies, which is a list of movies, right? And then add to the movie. You see that? Right? Meaning whatever list you already have of movies, I want to add this movie to your list. This is still in the object world, right? The database doesn't know anything about this. Although we do know that our database, our JPA implementation is keeping track of all these fields, right? If you are dirtying the list of movies in the library, it knows that it's not synchronized with the database. So at some point, it would want to synchronize, right? So at least it knows that. And then we need to go the reverse relationship. We need to tell the movie that its library is this library that I fetch from the database, right? So in memory, they both know about each other in RAM, right? But not until I actually persist this that it actually gets saved to the database. Now, this right here is what actually tells the movie object, right, that it needs to generate a foreign key that needs to written to the database, right? But this is going to fail because this get movies by default is just going to return movies. But movies by default is going to be null. So I better either initialize this here or in the getter, right? It could be here or in the getter. So we better make sure that we instantiate this and give it a default implementation. Okay. What else? I think that's it. So let's try this. Let's call and add some movies to the library. So let's not create the sci-fi library. Let's add. Let's see. This will be DAO dot add movie to library. Let's add. Let's see. Alien and Avatar to sci-fi. So we'll do 3 and 4. So movie 3 and the library is just 1. Right, so we'll add it to 1. And also we'll do 4 to 1. So let's run this. Okay, let's see if it worked. So if we refresh the library should not have changed, but let's look at the movies. Notice that the movies now, Avatar and Alien, have a foreign key to the library, right? Poltergeist, Exorcist, I guess now it's horror. Right, many to many. Right, so for instance, we would like to be able to have maybe many actors, right, participating in many movies, right? So that's a many to many. In this case, to be able to do that, we're going to have to use a mapping table, right? We can't have foreign keys. We can't have the actors having foreign keys to the movie because there might be multiple movies that the actor might have been in, right? So a better implementation would be to use a mapping table, right? So let's first create the actor. Oh, do we have the actor? Actor. Let's implement actor. Let's implement a new entity. Yes. It's not ready to be discussed. It'll be out.
The last
assignment 4? 5? Yeah. No, it'll be out tonight. Yeah. And yeah. It's not quite yet ready yet. So let's implement the entity. So this would be actor. Wait, why didn't it ask me? Did it just create a class? Oh no. Why didn't it ask me? It didn't ask me any of the fields. All right, fine. ID, and this is private int ID. And this is a generated, I have it here. I don't have it here. I guess I didn't create it here. I guess this was the some of the more common ones, and I didn't bother to. This is entity. There we go. ID, and we need the. We also need the list of movies, right? So let's grab that. Oops. Why does copy never work? A list of movies. So I'm going to initialize that to be new array list. And I'll need here to import java.utils. And we'll need the setters and getters for these, right? For the actor, I think I have also first name and last name. So let's add that as well. So private string first name and private string last name. I think that's it. Movies, IDs, first name, last name. That's it. Let's create the setters and getters that go along with this. Select all except serialized, and let's add that. And let's also add a constructor that goes with that. Source, create constructor. All the fields. It says, well, to select all. Select all, and probably we'll need one with a constructor that uses first name and last name. Okay, there we go. All right, I think we have it. Let's create. Let's also now add the relationship. We're going to tell the actors that they are going to be related to the movies. Right. So movies are now going to have a list of actors. Right. So if we go to movies, right, we're going to add a actor. Let's add a list of actors to the movies. So let's go to movies. Movie, we're going to add here a list of actors. And lists is in utils. And we'll need the setters and getters for that as well. So source, generate the setters and getters for the actors at the bottom. Okay. All right, so we have both pointing to each other, right? And notice that they're both lists. List of actors, list of movies, right? So it's a many-to-many. So we're going to first configure the both of them. We're going to configure as many-to-many, right? On both sides, they're many-to-many. But on one of them, we need to choose which one should we configure the table mapping, right? And this is up to you. Either one works, right? You can call this movie to actor or actor to movie, right? It's whatever you feel in your mind makes more sense to be the parent, right? If there is such a thing, right? And there might not be a clear parent, right? If you want to look at it, movies contains a whole bunch of actors, or does an actor playing a lot of movies? I don't know. Depends on how you want to look at it. Cascade. No, I think that's right. Movie actor. Okay, no, that table doesn't exist. Now on the other side, on the actor side, we're going to also configure it to be a many-to-many. Right, so on the actor side, on the movies, on the movie side, we're going to say you are also many-to-many, and is actors who's referring to you. Okay. I think I have everything. Get movies, yada 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 yada. Movies to actors, set movies. Set movies. Okay, so one more thing. So since these can be manipulated from either way, right? You can take a movie and add a whole bunch of actors to it, right? Or you can take an actor and add a whole bunch of movies to it, right? And you can persist them either way. You can say, okay, we'll have an actor with a whole bunch of movies. If I persist the actor, it will also persist all the movies, right? Or if I have a movie and add, did I say movie? The other way, whatever the opposite is. If I have actors, I can add movies and I can persist that, or I can have a movie and add actors and persist it either way, right? Because it can go both ways, right? I need to configure the setters, right? So if I set the movies of an actor, I need to iterate over all those movies and tell them, hey, movies, I am your actor, right? So let's see. So in set movies, so in actor, set movies, where is it? Set movies, here it is. Right? Is going to set, obviously it's going to set the movies, right? We already had that, right? Oops. We already had this. The only different thing on here is I'm iterating over all those movies and say, hey, add me as an actor to you, right? Because I am one of your actors, right? If I'm adding you as movies, each one of you, I am your actor. And both way, the other way too, right? If I'm going to set the movies, where is it? Did I not do it the other way around? Set movies, set actors. There it is. Set actors. So on movies, movie, set actors, set actors. Where are you? So we're already setting the actors, right? You're giving you the actors, but we're adding the fact that I am iterating over the actors, and I'm telling you, add this movie to your list of movies. Right, so you both know about each other. Okay. All right, I think we have that. So let's try to see if this blows up. Set movies. Okay, let's generate all these things. Let's generate JPA. JPA tools generate the tables from entities. And let's see if this blows up. What errors? What do I have here? Movie, okay, that's fine. Movie now, movie library, actor. Do you have any errors? Other actor, public actor. What's wrong with this? Actor, public actor. What? I have another constructor? I do. I have two. Okay. Anything else? Generating tables again. Oh no! Sometimes it takes a while. Come on. All right, stop it. I meant to do that manually. Okay, let's try that again. Let's generate that. Let's see. JPA tools, generate tables. Database. Let's see. Come on. Oh, it's generating tables from entities. Why are you taking so long? Ah.
Has an error at the top.
Huh?
Has some error at the top.
Where?
I don't know, it's showing red.
Here?
No, in the code.
Oh, well, no, that's because the tables are not there yet. So it's saying that the entities are not there. Yeah, well, it's taking too long. I don't know. Sorry, I ran out of time. I'll finish this up at home.